So this is going to be Soils 101, right? So we want to talk about mixing soils for a raised bed. So let's talk about the different components.
Components. Right. So first of all, I would you want 50% of the soil in that bed to be a clay-based soil. It could be, it depends, and you probably want to get a soil test to see what the pH and all that to start off. But this is screen soil, which is great to work with. If you are getting your soil ready and it's wet, you're going to compact it, so do not till it or break it up. If it's wet, if you squeeze it together and it stays together and see how that breaks back up, then it's fine to till it and work it. Initially, if depending on the size of your raised bed, but I would break up that ground on the bottom of the bed and then start amending. And if you can you could take the soil out and amend it and put it back if you're not going to buy some screen soil, if you're just going to use your existing soil. Okay. But it would be good to get something that's screened like this.
So why does it have to be screened?
Just makes it easier to mix, and it's finer and broken up instead of being a big clods. And this is straight clay soil that's as hard as a rock, but it not conducive for growing plants, that's for sure. Okay. Coarse red sand. Right. And here in Memphis in the Mid-South, we have access to this really coarse sand.
That's good.
Larger granules helps to loosen the soil up. It has bits of pea gravel, and it will help to loosen that clay-based soil up.
So the sand is important for loosening up the soil.
It is. Got it. Okay. It helps with structure. Okay. This happens to be our organic material, our compost, but this is Cottonburg compost, which is very rich, so you don't need as much, but you can use poultry manure, black cow manure, leaf compost. Leaf compost is not as high in nutrients, but it does have the organic matter.
So why do we need to add that?
You're adding that because you look at soil as biological, physical, and chemical. This is adding microbes, fungi, bacteria to your soil, and that's breaking down things in the soil so that makes it available to the plant. Got it. So it's a living ecosystem in your soil. Okay. And then for physical, you're adding sand and this bark. This is screen pine bark, which is, we have access here again in the Mid-South too. And that's when they take the bark off the pine trees. This is what's been screened off. It's very fine.
So why do we need the bark in the
mix?
mix?
To add to the soil to help loosen the soil. Okay. And it adds organic matter. You could use pine bark mulch. I would not use some of the hardwoods and stuff because most of that is not bark. It's wood fiber. And wood fiber to break down, the microbes are going to take nitrogen out of the soil to break it down, and it takes longer. Right. You could do it at home and have your sticks and limbs and have them all and let them compost for probably a year or so, and then you could use that as part of, and that'll help loosen the soil as well. And then doing your, having your soil tested, you're looking at pH, and that's your chemical part. So you got your physical, chemical, and then your organic part. And then you're going to mix these together. All right. So if you're doing it in a raised bed, you could dig out some of your existing soil and amend it, or you could layer it. It's just harder to do in a raised bed. If you can do it outside of it and put it back in, it's just easier to do.
So you like to mix one component of it at
a time?
Well,
it doesn't matter. I'm just doing that, but you could layer, take your soil, put your sand, then put your compost, and then put your bark on it. This is just easier to, but same thing, you're mixing it up. And the tiller, initially you could use a tiller to mix it up, but after that, that does cause compaction when you till, so if you can avoid that.
So just initially you would do that?
Do that. It's just easier to mix it up that way. Then after that, every year, once you get your really good mix, which we're getting here, you can add an inch or two of some type of compost, cow manure, leaf compost every year, and then mix, and that will help add nutrients back in and help with the biological in it.
Okay. So you mentioned compost a couple of times. So what is compost? And let's talk a little bit about that.
Compost is some type of plant material that's been broken down. It could be leaves, stems, even roots of stuff can be used in that. And if you have a compost bin, you could put that in there. You take kitchen scraps. Yeah. No meats or anything like that. That's right. You can use some coffee grounds. You can use eggshells and things like that add to it. Just have to be careful that coffee grounds can be a little acidic.
Yeah.
Always get a soil test to see where you're at, because you never know.
Might be.
I
like the fact you keep mentioning that soil test. We talk about that all the time. That is good. So let me feel a little bit of that as you're mixing it, right?
See how loose that is?
Loose.
So you're getting pore space in between that screen soil that we had, or just your regular soil. Your soil is a mixture of clay, sand, and silt.
Yeah.
It could be more of the other. Here in the Mid-South, it's a lot more clay.
Yeah.
It's very nutritious.
But we shouldn't curse the clay, right?
That's
right.
We
actually need some clay.
It's highly nutritious. It's just not because of the different the charge in the clay. It may not be the nutrient accessible to the plant.
Right.
But when you add the organics and some of the other, it makes it accessible to the plant.
Oh, that is good. So you mentioned pore space. So what is pore space and why is
pore
it important?
space is the spaces between the particles of your soil.
Okay.
So it allows water, allows air, allows those roots to go down into that and get deep and get the nutrients they need.
Right.
And just if you don't have that pore space, if it's compacted, that's why you don't want to compact your soil. Walk on it as little as possible. Water will not infiltrate down; it'll just run over off of it. And so you want it to go down in there, and that just allows those roots to move down in there. And then having that clay-based soil gives it structure so the roots can hold. If you just had straight organic or sand, it's not going to be as strong structure for it.
Right, and I usually tell people this: if I was a plant root, right, I want to hang out in pore space. Because again, that's where your water, that's where your air, and your nutrients are going to be. So it just makes sense to me.
And your microbes live in that pore space.
Yeah.
So
as we're talking about pore space, what are some other additives that you can add to the soil to create that pore space?
So worm castings. So you can buy that now. I've got it in bulk. If you get it fresh, it'll have a lot of biological activity in it. Okay. Yeah. But if it's been aged, it is still great biological, and it's the little sticky that if you pick up an earthworm, it's kind of sticky. That helps hold structure together in your soil and nutrients. So that's good to have. Of course, leaf compost. See how coarse that is? That really adds. That's adding organics plus all that will add and loosen it up. Soil conditioner, which we did earlier, which is just screen pine bark. Again, try to stay away from wood products unless it's composted. Like these wood chips, you would want that to be broken down and breaking down, almost becoming soil before you use it. You don't want it fresh like this because the microbes will take the nitrogen and deplete it out of your soil, and your plants will not grow well.
You can really tell the difference.
You can.
Okay, how about that?
And then a product that we used at the Dixon, if you want really, really good drainage, and for example, rosemary or lavender need really good, this is a clay-based material that's been heated like 3,000 degrees. Wow. It's pretty much inert. The pH is pretty much neutral. It does not break down. All the baseball fields and softball fields probably across America have this on the infield and on the pitcher's mound and the catchers.
Really?
So when you have a big rain, it allows it to drain.
I got
It
you.
will hold a little bit of moisture, but not much, but it just loosens the soil up. So when we planted that rosemary, we did our regular amended soil, and then we added almost half and half, and we had perfect drainage, and that rosemary did really well. We have so much rain in the winter here. The spring, it really helped with that. So that's
and what is that again?
It's called Turface.
Turface.
It's mainly used by softball and baseball teams, but this is MVP. We saw that.
Okay.
And then one of my favorite things to fertilize with is one of the tones. It's an organic fertilizer, and this is Biotone Plant Starter. Reason I like it, it has most of the micronutrients. It's all organic. They use different types of manures and different things, and then they add beneficial bacteria and then endo and ecto mycorrhiza.
Right.
So you're adding the fungi, the bacteria to it, and everything we plant at the Dixon, we use this in all of our cutting garden beds, and then when we plant trees and shrubs and vegetables and things.
So tell us the importance of the mycorrhiza.
The mycorrhiza is a beneficial fungi that attaches to the roots of the plant, and it's using the roots to kind of hold on to give it, because it doesn't have true roots and structure. So it grabs hold of that, and it allows the plant to take up more water and nutrients.
Nice.
if you go out in the woods and find a dogwood and dig down, it's all over the world, but you dig down, you're going to find that mycorrhiza fungi there, and especially around dogwoods. And plants like that don't have a real extensive root system, it allows that plant to take up more nutrients and water. So it's very good. The endo is on the, ecto's on the outside, the endo is on the inside of the root.
So this is your favorite?
To start off with. And then you can use other organic type fertilizers, or we do use a combination of the chemical too. Just in a raised bed, if you're using a lot of chemical stuff, you can get salts from that, and you may have to flush that. But once you get that soil really good and rich with the organic stuff, you don't need a ton of fertilizer. Using this is like 4% nitrogen, 3% potassium and phosphorus, so it's not a high. You don't want a bunch of nitrogen unless you're growing something that's just for green. That's green.
And again, you say you would mix that, or you top dress it?
It's better to mix it in a little bit. You want the mycorrhiza needs to make contact with the roots. So when we plant, we mix it in. We'll put a little bit in the hole, and then we'll mix a little bit in with the backfill that we've amended. And in a raised bed, you could just throw that in as you're mixing it up, and the plants will grow down through it.
How much would you put in? Does it?
It'll tell you on there, but you don't need a lot. Like if you were doing say a 4 foot by 4 foot raised bed, maybe a cup or a cup and a half of that, or that. It goes a long way.
Well, Kyle, we appreciate this, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a good soil mix. Yeah, let's look at that again.
I know.
Isn't that nice?
It is.
Yeah, we wish people could feel that. You know what I mean?